this is the place to do it. There's a reason California is called the Golden State. It's because we have a lot of it. John Bartell here. If you've been on the Backroads as long as I have, you're bound to run into a gold mine or two. But did you know California mines a whole lot more than just gold? We're a very mineral-rich state. And I want to take you to some of my favorite mines across California. We're going to start right here at the Goldbug Mine. In the late 1800s, Placerville, or Old Hangtown as it was known, was littered with gold mine shafts.
Tens of thousands of mines.
Today though, tour guide Rich Dvorak says there's only one mine safe enough for tourists, and it's located in Goldbug Park.
Placerville is the only municipality in the United States that owns its own gold mine.
Owning a gold mine may sound pretty cool, but
Is this a profitable gold mine?
It's profitable from the tourist sense, not so much from the gold sense.
for a minimal entry fee, tourists can escape the summer heat or the winter cold and enter the mine where it's a comfortable 52 degrees. Just watch your head.
You definitely gotta duck down here.
The Goldbug Mine was dug by two miners named William Craddock and John Dench in 1888.
It goes 362 feet into the mountain, and at the back, it's 110 feet down.
That's a pretty deep gold mine if you ask me, but Rich says you can't judge a mine by its depth.
The fact that it took them 16 years to go 200 feet tells me they weren't finding very much.
After Craddock and Dench, other gold miners tried their luck in the mine, but they ended up empty-handed too. Today, Goldbug Mine offers visitors a look at how gold was processed. This replica stamp mill shows how they smashed gold out of rock ore. Malikoff Diggin State Historic Park near Nevada City was the site of one of the most destructive mining operations in the state. Now, it's making a former mining area an example of environmental responsibility. If you've ever wondered what the inside of the Sierra foothills look like, it's this. In a way, it's beautiful. A kaleidoscope of sedimentary rocks piled up layer on layer. But this spot, this massive location, has an ugly past.
When they had it at full operation, you're talking about 100,000 tons of material a day that was getting blasted. We're talking about mountainsides just completely blown away.
This is Malikoff Diggin State Park. It's located in Nevada County's remote town of Bloomsfield, and it's the site of one of the most destructive mining operations in California history.
And what you have here is an area that was carved out by hydraulic mining through the use of large monitors, which are basically these huge water cannons.
Miners use those water cannons to extract gold from the mountains. Park Supervisor Dustin Patterson says it's a process known as hydraulic mining.
You just fire this thing off, and at 16,000 gallons a minute, it's taking that hillside out completely and in no time flat.
Hydraulic mining is extremely destructive, but not only to the environment, but to anything or anyone downstream.
Downriver in the actual valleys, we had farmers that had their fields flooded, we had towns get destroyed.
Hydraulic mining at Malikoff got so bad, it prompted the very first environmental lawsuit in California.
In 1884, the Sawyer decision essentially banned hydraulic mining by banning the discharge of the gravel and sediments into local water courses.
Not long after hydraulic mining was banned, the town of Bloomsfield went bust, and Malikoff Diggin's mine was abandoned. How long is it going to take for stuff to grow back here?
That's a great question. As a rule of thumb, topsoil takes years, hundreds of years to accumulate.
More than 130 years later, the rusty metal pipes still litter the 3,200-acre state park. They act as a reminder of how destructive gold fever can be.
This will be fixed over time, but in my lifetime, your lifetime, our kids' lifetime, this scar is going to be here.
Here at Malikoff Diggins, it's a place to learn about the environmental impacts of man.
What is that loud noise that we're walking up on here?
That is the generator that runs the park right now.
Ironically, a polluting diesel power generator has been powering the park since they took ownership in 1965. But that's about to change. By the end of the year, Malikoff will become the first state park in California to be completely solar powered.
Remembering our legacy of hydraulic mining and the environmental damage, we've gone from it being an environmental disaster to being part of the environmental solution.
Gold fever struck but never really panned out. Now California's last functioning gold stamper is a reminder of a tragedy and a dream that went bust. You'll find this next mine in the small boom town of Sierraville. It's quiet in Sierra City. The fir trees in this mountain town absorb the sound of the North Yuba River and whatever cars make it up this far on Highway 49. It's peaceful here, but it wasn't always this quiet.
The noise is so loud that you couldn't carry on a conversation, so they all went inside to talk.
Sierra City was a mining town, and if you listen closely, you can still hear the echoes of history's past. You are looking at a California stamp mill.
Well, each one of these weighs 1,000 pounds.
Not to be confused with a postage stamp, this is a rock-smashing gold ore stamp mill.
So the rocks are going under here and
That's correct.
literally turn into dust.
Literally.
Here at the Kentucky Mine and Museum, you can witness the last remaining operable stamp mill in California.
This is the only one that actually operates.
To clarify here, the word operable is a loose term at the Kentucky Mine.
This is an operable stamp mill, not working right now. It's manpower, not water power.
The stamp mill is almost 100 years old. In its prime, water used to move the 1,000-pound rock crushers.
Belt-driven, water-powered, yes.
Bill Cochran's a docent here, and he says because of the mill's old age, they had to disconnect the water so the mill wouldn't smash itself to pieces.
She doesn't run like she used to then.
Right.
Okay, all right.
The current stamp mill we see today is actually the second stamp mill built at the Kentucky Mine. It was built and completed in 1933 by Emil Loeffler and his son Adolf. That first stamp mill, well, it was torn down because of a lack of gold.
There's no real records of what it produced. There's some argument that it didn't produce any.
Emil Loeffler had what you call gold fever. He worked the mine for 16 years without a profit. Then in 1944, Emil stopped prospecting after his son Adolf died in a mine explosion.
This is the adit to the Kentucky Mine.
A colony of endangered bats now inhabit the mine, and out of respect for Adolf and the bats, no one's allowed inside anymore.
And then they would open this.
The Kentucky Mine looks nearly the same as it did when Emil and Adolf last ran it. Preservation efforts since the 1970s kept the canvas belts and the metal gears in working order. Even some of Emil's old rock dust remains.
There's a number of stamp mills still in existence, but this is the last operable one, still runs.
Now, it may surprise you that the largest mine in California is not a gold mine, but a borax mine. It's a mineral that's used in everything from cell phones to laundry soap. And you can peer down that large mine in the little town of Boron in the Mojave Desert.
Borax sweet. Borax sweet.
Borax, the cleaning agent that our parents and our grandparents grew up with.
20-multene borax is nature's sweetener for laundry.
The old-fashioned powdered soap cleans clothes, cleans hands, and cleans dishes.
Clean cutting board with all the troublemakers washed off.
Borax may be old-fashioned, but it's definitely not outdated. In fact, borax is inside modern items we use every day.
You don't really know this, but in your daily lives you interact with it constantly. It's not only is it in fertilizers for your food, it is in glass for your television, it is in your cell phone here, this glass.
Borax is inside hundreds of products and used by people from all over the world, but there's really only two places in the world that make borax: the country of Turkey and the desert town of Boron in Kern County, California.
Borax is it's like an element on the periodic table, boron, right? And it's combined with other elements to be borax, like you see it here in the pit.
The pit that General Manager Rennie Dillinger is talking about is the U.S. Borax Mine, the largest mining operation in California.
We supply about 30% of the world's demand from this location here.
Without actually visiting the pit, it's pretty hard to fathom how big it is and how much borax is being removed.
That's deep, really deep.
Lucky for you and me, the U.S. Borax has a fantastic visitor center, which gives you an up-close look at the mining process and the equipment.
It's about 25 feet tall, 22 feet wide, and hauls, like I said, 270,000 tons every time that we take it to the surface.
Borax is normally sold in powder form, but to get that powder, massive dump trucks must move borax boulders from the mine to the processing plant so they can be crushed and purified. Rennie says it's not uncommon for these monster trucks to be running 24 hours a day and burning about 1,000 gallons of fuel each shift.
How much to replace one of these tires?
It depends. It kind of changes on you in time, but $20,000 to $60,000.
Before the massive dump trucks and heavy equipment, borax mining was a primitive process that involved mules and wagons.
If you listen real closely, you can hear them over in this area hee-hawing.
After learning about the modern mining process at U.S. Borax, historian Jerry Gallegos welcomes people to the 20 Mule Team Museum in Boron to learn about the old school way.
It all started in Death Valley where they actually discovered Eulisite borax.
In the early 1880s, borax was mined in Death Valley with a team of 20 mules.
A mule is a donkey and a horse?
Cross.
A cross.
Mules are faster, stronger, and require less drinking water. When fully loaded, the 20 mule team could pull 2 wagons and a water tank, which weighed 36.5 tons.
This sounds like a horrible trip. It's very hot.
Yes. Oh yeah. It could get 130 degrees right now in summertime in Death Valley, if not hotter.
The 20 mule team hauled borax 165 miles through Death Valley. Their strength and tenacity was highly revered, and their image ultimately became the logo on every box of the 20 mule team borax soap.
Boratine, borax bleach, the borax hand cleaner. So everybody, that's what we've always been known for.
Increased rules and regulations has turned gold mining into a dying industry in California, but one operation has managed to stay in business. Sierra County is home to the state's oldest gold mine, the Alagany Mine.
They found gold at Sutter's Mill.
Gold put California on the map. In 1849, thousands of people flocked to the Sierra foothills to mine gold. California is the Golden State, but these days, many commercial mining operations are closing down, except for one company.
It is the oldest American gold mining company.
Welcome to the original 16-to-1 mine, located in the little town of Alagany in Sierra County. Since 1911, the mine produced over 1 million ounces of gold. That's about 1% of the gold in Fort Knox.
One of the richest concentrations of gold in the world.
Mike Miller is the president of the mine. He says most of California's gold originated from a 200-mile quartz vein that spans from Plumas County to Mariposa County. And the 16-to-1 mine has only explored a few miles of it.
You're telling me $1 billion worth of gold is below us, but you guys are the only ones digging for it?
That's what I'm telling you, John.
To understand why the 16-to-1 mine is one of the only mining companies out here, you have to go inside the mine. It's like a wild roller coaster ride in here. But first, you have to get down to the gold. And when I say down, I mean 1,300 feet down. Definitely a different kind of commute to work than I take. For some strange geological reason, gold particles get trapped in quartz rock formations called veins.
And it's just like an Easter egg hunt.
The Northern California quartz vein is called the lode, and there's 2 ways to get the gold out of it. You can either wait for water to naturally wash it out, or you can dig for it. All right, so right now we are at the 1,300 level. This is pretty much the center of the quartz vein. And next, we're gonna go to an area where they've pulled out $1 million worth of gold in one shift. In the early 1990s, miners at the 16-to-1 mine started using metal detectors to locate the gold. And the idea saved the mine from closing.
It's like big boulders to solve the gold. I mean, it was So that part right there keeps me still doing what I'm doing.
Reed Miller is Mike's son, and today he's working with Dan Gnomes, and the two miners are trying to remove 11 feet of rock from an old dig site. You're working in a very cramped space every day.
Yeah, because you guys think you blasted, so you gotta move that rock so you can get back in there and drill another round. So you're constantly, it's like a worm going in a hole and constantly, getting that dirt out. Yeah.
The task seems never-ending, and it is. Only 20% of the rock in the 16-to-1 mine has been explored. In fact, most of the gold veins in the foothills haven't been explored.
Why is no one else mining out here?
Oh, there's a reason.
One of the main reasons is California regulation. This is the Surface Mine and Reclamation Act of 1975. It was created to protect the environment, but over the years, other government agencies have littered the mining industry with so many new rules that miners have a hard time mining.
We all need to be regulated, but we need to be fairly regulated, and it hasn't been fair.
Mike says more than a dozen different agencies monitor mining, but he does believe that there is light at the end of the tunnel for mining.
If you're not an optimist, you better not be a gold miner. And yes, I think it's going to get better.
California gold miners have been through 150 years of struggles. Mike hopes that regulators will take a closer look at those struggles so that California miners can live on. You may remember California's first gold rush, which started in 1849, but did you know California had a second gold rush? It took place in San Diego County in the hills of a town called Julian, which also became known for its motherlode of apples. In the gold-rich hills of Northern California, history often focuses on James Marshall, the man credited with starting the state's first gold rush in 1849.
Take a look at these drilling bars that are on the wall here.
But rarely does history talk about Fred Coleman and California's second gold rush.
As his horse was getting a drink, he saw a glint of metal in the sand and started panning for gold.
Fred Coleman was a former slave turned rancher, and he was also really good at mining, but really bad at keeping a secret.
He was talking about all the piles of it he saw up here and how fast he's going to be a rich guy, and he single-handedly set off the second gold rush to Southern California.
We don't have any pictures of Fred Coleman, but the legacy of his gold discovery lives on right here at the Eagle Mining Company.
So back then they nicknamed this Gold Hill. There's 235 old abandoned mines up here in Julian.
Word got out about Coleman's gold discovery in 1870. That same year, the Eagle Mine started digging. And according to tour guide John Rodove, the Eagle Mine outlasted most of its competition.
The second gold rush was kind of short-lived. It was only a few years, but they did find a lot of gold up here.
The Eagle Mining Company managed to pull out around $400,000 worth of gold, but ultimately it had to close its doors in 1934. Today, though, it's one of Julian's most popular tourist attractions.
The Powder Man was a guy with a fun job here in the High Peak Mine. He got to use explosives to clear the tunnel system out.
Inside the mine, visitors learn about all sorts of mining dangers, and they even get to experience how dark it was for them.
Okay.
A maze of ladders and stairs will eventually take you more than 400 feet below the surface. There's a lot of mining artifacts to look at along the way, but make sure you stay with the group. Have you ever had anyone get lost in this mine here?
Well, not yet.
Outside the mine, try your hand at gold panning for real gold.
Let's get that.
If mining doesn't pan out, you can always head down the hill to Julian for a slice of pie.
It's really good. It's the best we've ever found.
When mining went bust, farming took over. Julian's cold weather climate is perfect for growing apples. Fred Coleman may have discovered gold in this area, but the real mother lode in Julian is pie. In October, more than 10,000 pies a week are sold, and tourists wait in long lines just to taste them. Was it worth the wait out here?
Definitely.
Well, there's nowhere to go but down at this next location. At more than a mile deep, the Kennedy Mine in Amador County is one of California's richest and deepest gold strikes. Bring a flashlight, because it's gonna get dark. Highway 49 was named after the gold miners of 1849. The historic route is essentially a tour through gold country, and one of the most profitable and deepest gold mines along Highway 49 is the Kennedy Mine in Amador County. How deep is this mine?
5,912 feet deep.
Tour guide Doug Ketron says the Kennedy Mine was named after prospector Andrew Kennedy, the man who discovered gold in the area, but turns out wasn't much of a digger.
But Kennedy got down to that hard quartz and he couldn't do anything with it. So he sold his interest to a group of businessmen in Jackson.
The arduous task of digging through the hard rock took dozens of men digging straight down, and the only way down was on the headframe elevator, which was essentially a bucket on the end of a cable.
9 guys climbed in the bucket, and then they put the wood platforms on top of them, and another 7, 8 guys got on there, and they just held on. And
work in the mine was pretty miserable. Shifts were often more than 10 hours a day. It was dark, dangerous, and hot.
it was near 100 degrees, and it was almost 100% humidity.
That's like working in an armpit or something like that. The search for gold at the Kennedy Mine ended in 1942 because resources were needed for World War II. But in total, the mine produced more than $34 million worth of gold.
Okay, yeah.
Today, the mine is protected and open to the public so you can experience how gold was extracted and processed. California is not known for its coal mining, but there was a small deposit of coal found in the sandy hills of the Bay Area. But as miners dug deeper, they found that sand was much more valuable than the coal. I learned all about it at the Black Diamond Preserve in Antioch. The hills of Antioch hold a secret of times past. On the surface, wind whips over the forgotten remains of Somerville and Nortonville. But underground, the lost riches of the old mining towns have been kept alive. This is Kate Collins, and she works at the Black Diamond Mine's Regional Preserve, which gets its name from the old coal deposits here. Coal mining in California ended in the 1900s, but in the 1920s, miners started digging for something much more useful.
Yeah, this is the silica sand right around us, and here we can see some of the products that they made with that. Shot glasses, mason jars, salt and pepper shakers.
Sand in the Hazel Atlas mine contains high levels of clean silica, the main ingredient to make glass, and the Hazel Atlas glass factory in Oakland was using a lot of it.
They took about 1.8 million tons.
Underground mining became too expensive in the 1970s, so the mine closed. Today, the Hazel Atlas mine is a tourist attraction managed by the East Bay Park System.
Well, the mine itself has over 8 miles of underground workings.
Luckily, the tour I was taking is only a quarter-mile long, but along the way, you get to see some earth-shaking geology.
So this is the Hazel Atlas Fault.
This crack is the remains of an ancient earthquake smack dab in the middle of the mine. What do you think the odds are that it can shake right now?
Well, I don't think we're gonna have an earthquake on this fault. We don't think it's active.
Miners may not have had to worry about earthquakes, but they did have to worry about workplace hazards. What is this giant hole right here?
This is what we call a stope. It's one of the large rooms that was left over after all the blasting and removal of sand.
The men who carved into these hills had rough lives. Many died from lung diseases after breathing in the fine silica particles. Today, though, the sand mines have been made safe, so tourists can experience the hidden history of California's past. In the hills of Grass Valley is one of the deepest and most elaborate gold mines in California. Today, it's a state park, but for over a century, miners were lowered down a small opening that dropped hundreds of feet. Day in and day out since 1850, gold miners were lowered down this small opening at the top of the Empire Mine, and the only way down was on a primitive open-air elevator called a man skip. It's very dangerous working down there. I guess safety standards were much different back then.
They had 26 fatalities in the life of the mine.
These days, steps and handrails replace the mine's dangerous elevator. Unfortunately, tour guide Blair Brooksby says those steps don't take you into the deep spider web of shafts and tunnels.
It's full of water. There's 367 miles of shafts and drifts down below us, and they're basically all full of water.
Labor laws and low gold prices forced the mine to close in 1956, but before that, the Empire Mine was extremely profitable. More than 5.8 million ounces of gold were extracted, and it was all thanks to giant pumps that removed the water so miners could dig.
They shut the mine down in 1956. It took about 9 months after the pump stopped to fill up the water.
The gold-filled mine shafts may be underwater, but if you walk into the secret room, you can see where that gold is hiding.
They wanted to keep this a secret because if anybody else from other mines saw this, they could see where the really good veins of gold were.
Empire Mine owner William Bourne invested a lot of money to extract gold, and it paid off. He lived a lavish lifestyle directly above the mine, and you can see it for yourself by touring the elegant clubhouse or his grand cottage. California mines all sorts of minerals, and if you want to see them all, the State Mining and Mineral Museum has them on display in Mariposa County. If you're a rock hound, you just hit the motherlode with this place. Quartzite, calcite, magnetite, and fluorite, those minerals and more are all nicely on display for your viewing pleasure. Lots of ites in here.
Yes, most minerals end with an ite.
Museum interpreter Natalie Sandman is no fool when it comes to the more than 1,300 specimens on display. This pyrite.
Yeah, pyrite.
AKA,
Fool's gold.
Fool's gold.
Yeah.
Real gold, not fool's gold, as you probably guessed, is California's state mineral, but did you know the state gemstone is benitoite?
It's blue, it has these really cool triangular crystals. It's so rare. The mine that this was found in is in San Benito County, so that's why it's named benitoite.
The state mineral collection started back in 1880. Today, rocks, gemstones, and fossils from all over the world are on display. Locked up in the museum's vault is another prize specimen, the Freecott nugget, a 13.8-pound crystallized gold nugget found in the American River back in 1864.
And it's surviving from the gold rush, which is what makes it quite spectacular.
If you want to see what it's like to be a gold miner, take a tour through the replica gold mine shaft, which eventually leads you to the replica stamp mill. A stamp mill crushes rock ore to help extract gold. The town of Mariposa was actually one of the first places in California to build one. They weren't creating postage stamps here,
No.
They were stamping rocks.
Stamping rocks.
Big rocks, small rocks, and rocks that glow in the dark. I could go on all day about the cool gems and minerals in this museum, but it's probably best that you check it out yourself. Well, thanks for watching Bartell's Backroads and checking out some of California's historic mining and mineral locations. I hope it's inspired you to hit the road and check out a few spots yourself. I'm John Bartell. Hope to see you on the Backroads.